right, ladies. Welcome to the Ignite Your Desire Masterclass. Super excited to be here today. We're going to be talking about how to revive desire and feel sexy again without hormones, years of therapy, or trying things that don't feel authentic in the bedroom. Who is down for that? Well, I am Lacey Broussard. If you are new to my work or new to the podcast, this is me. I am the multi-orgasmic mama, and I have a podcast under that name. And I am a holistic sex coach for women that lack desire and want to feel sexy again. And I just want to welcome you here because, if you're a hardworking mama and you have lost your mojo, then I just want to tell you that you are in the right place because that is exactly what I help women do. And if you have no idea what happened to your desire after having kids, if you've completely lost touch with that sensual, sexual woman inside after having kids, I just want to tell you that that's really, really common and it's probably not your fault because we don't support women in their sexuality after having kids. There's no rehabilitation process to help a woman even like physiologically speaking with her pelvic floor health. We don't even help women with that. Like even that's a huge challenge, but to help her get back in touch with the sensual sexual woman inside, whew, that's something that we don't support women in at all. And in fact, if you have ever had that thought like, well, I'm married, I have kids now, my sex life is over, that's really common. And also, it's not because if you haven't worked with me, you haven't had the best sex of your life yet. But you are probably right in thinking that because that is the message that society likes to perpetuate about mothers being sexual. We are still super repressed in our sexuality as women. And even if you can sit here and say, oh, I'm a feminist, women's rights, and yeah, no, I'm sexually liberated. A lot of us can say those things and we really do believe in all of these things, but do we actually feel that way inside of our bodies? And if most of you were to get really honest with yourselves, you would not feel sexually liberated and expressed. You might think that you are, and you are, but you might not feel that way on the inside. So today we're going to talk about 3 of my secrets to ignite desire and feel sexy again. So we're going to talk about the number one thing that you can do today to take responsibility for your lack of desire and stop blaming it on your hormones because most of the time it ain't your hormones. We're going to talk about how to love yourself and be confident without going on diets, without getting in the perfect shape, or doing things in the bedroom that do not feel authentic. And we're going to talk about why couples counseling and therapy does not work to resolve a lack of desire, and the number one thing that you can do now to ignite it. Okay, so stay with me to the end, and I'm going to be giving you, I don't know where to move this thing, guys. I'm just going to put it right there. And I'm going to be giving you $997 worth of value for free. I'm going to be giving away my 14-day practice guide to ignite desire and feel sexy again. That's going to come with communication and connection practices that I've only ever shared with my one-on-one clients up until now. I'm going to be giving away some body love meditations and practices, some sexy confidence practices to ignite desire, a free JDEG e-guide, which I will be talking more about the JDEG later, 3 audio guided JDEG practices to get started on a JDEG practice now. And you'll be able to book a 45-minute breakthrough call with me, which is amazing because we're going to talk about what you are specifically struggling with in sexuality relationship, where you want to go, like what are your goals and desires, and what's keeping you from getting that. So what are the blocks and obstacles in the way that are unique to you, and what do you need to focus on? And we're going to come up with a game plan to get you past those blocks and obstacles. And if you feel that you want to work with me further and want to learn more about what I offer, I'd be happy to tell you about what I do offer on the phone, but it's absolutely not something that you have to take me up on. So this is just giving value to you because I'm all about giving you insane value for free. This is why I've been doing podcasting for almost two years now. I love it. Okay, so some of the challenges that hardworking mamas face, all right? Let's talk about these when it comes to sexuality. So number 1, you're tired. You're overwhelmed. You are stressed out. I know, I have been there. You are tired and you don't make pleasure a priority. Who here can make pleasure a priority when you're tired, stressed out, and overwhelmed all the time? It's really freaking hard. So I understand that's a challenge. We're going to talk about that. Number two, you don't know how to talk to your partner about pleasure and sex or even money in a way that feels good and safe. Okay. And this is the two reasons why couples end up getting divorced the most: money and sex. So you think it's pretty important that we learn how to talk about these things in a way that feels really good, that's effective, and that feels safe. Well, I'm going to give you some free things on how to do that. All right, number three, you're critical and judgmental of your body, and you always focus on your flaws. So you can be super skinny, you can look like a supermodel to everybody else, or maybe you're not, and you still continue to focus on all of the things that aren't perfect. That's something that a lot of us women struggle with, right? And number four, you don't know who you are and what you like sexually or how to ask for it. Okay, so if you don't know who you are sexually, then you don't know what you like. And if you don't know what you like, you don't know how to ask for it, so you don't. And then you end up having sex that feels unfulfilling and like it doesn't feel satisfying because you're not being satisfied in the way that's unique to you. All right, so who is ready to ignite their desire and feel sexy again and be an example to their kids that it is not taboo to be a mom and a sexual woman too? I am. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. I cannot figure out how to get my phone disconnected from my computer to save my life. If anybody knows, if you have an iPhone and a MacBook Air, how to do that, please let me know because it is so crazy. All right, so yeah, who's ready to ignite their desire and feel sexy again? If there's a chat box in here, if you've never used Zoom, you're welcome to go into the chat box and share. So let's see, everyone. All right, now you might see it pop up there. So that's where you can chat. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in there. Okay, next. So we're going to do this. I'm going to tell you how you can do this without hormones, going to years of therapy or couples counseling, or trying things that don't feel authentic in the bedroom in hopes of spicing things up, right? That's one of my trigger words. All right, so I am Lacey, and these are me and my boys, and my boys are 9 and 11 years old. We live in New Orleans, and this is us at Cafe Du Monde eating really terribly unhealthy beignets, but it's New Orleans. You got to indulge every now and then. And we love traveling. I love traveling. In the summers, they go to their dad's, so I often get out of town and go have fun. And I love independent music. I love playing the piano. I'm a musician. I learned how to surf this summer, which is super awesome. And I love running. And I love going to barre classes. So as you can see, super active. I always like moving my body, feeling strong in my body. And I am a sex coach for women that lack desire, want to feel sexy again. I've been doing this for 2 years now in December. And I studied at the Tantric Institute of Integrated Sexuality with Layla Martin. I did that in 2016, 17, and 18 because I did a couple of specializations with her as well. And I've worked with over 35 mamas to help them with this specific issue, and I've done it without telling them to go, use hormones or go to years of therapy and counseling or doing things that don't feel really good to them in the bedroom and that don't feel authentic and genuine. Okay, so now I'm going to share a couple of stories with you. So the first, and I've changed names to protect privacy, obviously. I wish I could move this thing. Maybe I can just move it up there, but then you can't see me. Okay, so here's one of my clients who had painful sex and no sex drive. Okay, she came to me and just lots and lots of pain after a really bad birth experience and just did not desire sex whatsoever. And after working with me for 5 months, totally revived that and experienced pain-free sex. And her secret weapons were doing her mindset work. She had a lot of conditioning around feeling like she had to be there for her kid all the time, I think her kid was like 8 months when she started working with me. And we had to do a lot of inner work around her unconscious conditioning and the deep trauma she had around her birth experience. And her work with a JDEG was the thing that took her from having pain and penetration to no pain and pleasure again. And then there's Claire's story. And she went from sex being another to do to, feeling sexy and confident and getting her mojo back and having the energy to start a biz. So super, super proud of her. And she didn't have to have a business coach to even get her first couple of clients, which was super freaking amazing. And she did this without hormones, going to counseling, talking about opening up her marriage, or putting on lingerie that was a puzzle to try and figure out in hopes of spicing things up. All right, so these are things you don't have to do in order to get your desire back. And then there's Vivian's story, who was in a 1.5 year sexless marriage and not able to say the word sex without turning red in the face. And she was on a call with me and literally could barely say the word, like literally could not even get it out of her mouth. And now she's having regular sex. She's having simultaneous orgasms with her partner. She even ejaculated for the first time. She's having open conversations about sex and even money with her partner. So super, super huge win for her as well. And then there's Jennifer, who is a massage therapist and who had a lot of issues around boundaries, around saying yes and no, and not knowing how to speak up for herself. And she was doing okay in massage therapy, but after working with me and really working on her boundaries and her true yes and no around what's, what is a true yes in her body, what's a true no in her body, and really getting out of the uh, you know, being a caretaker to everyone else, she experienced so many new clients coming to her that were ideal clients, and she ended up having to open up spots in a second location because she got completely booked out. And she got super confident, and started having vaginal orgasms from penetration with her partner, and just the connection between the two of them was super, super sparked and amazing and yummy after finishing working together too. And then finally, there is my story. So this is me in 2008, y'all. I laugh looking at this picture sometimes because I just can't even believe this is me 10 years ago or 11 years ago now. So I come from a very conservative religious upbringing that, I have lots and lots of guilt and shame around my sexuality. And then after working on my sexuality specifically for 5 years. This is me in 2018, doing photos for my business and my business photo shoot, which I actually really, really enjoy now. So yes, 2008, that's me living in the middle of Idaho in an Airstream trailer living off the grid. With my newborn baby, who's now 11 and in 6th grade. Crazy to think that was so long ago. And after I had my second baby in 2010, I started working in a birth center. And I noticed that moms were having a lot of problems around sex after birth. I would get them for their postpartum appointment and they'd be like, yeah, we're not having sex anytime soon. It was almost like an ongoing joke. And it wasn't because they couldn't, it was just like, the exhaustion, they were too tired. And there's no systematic rehabilitation process to help them reconnect with their sexuality or to even heal their pelvic floor after birth. So many women have pelvic floor issues after birth that never get treated because they don't even know that's a problem. Women think it's actually normal to just have incontinence or to have like some sort of prolapse issue going on. It's not normal. It's not normal at all. But women laugh about it and act like it's normal because no one really talks about this stuff. But I was starting to notice that not only was it this happening with my postpartum clients, I was a doula there and I was apprenticing to be a midwife. And uh, all of my friends were just starting to have kids around this time. So mine, I think I was like 27 at the time. And most of my friends were just starting to have kids and they were telling me the same stories like, yeah, sex is just out the window now. Like that's not happening anytime soon. And for me, I felt really shy and grossed out after having my second baby. I was so, like my when I looked at my boobs, they were just so saggy, and I just couldn't stand them. And I was like, oh my God, they're never going to go back to normal. They'd blown up like 3 sizes after breastfeeding. And I had all this loose skin, and I was just like, oh, so grossed out by my body. And I was also really vanilla and shy in the bedroom. So it was super repressed. I didn't express much. I had orgasms, but they weren't that great. And it was just kind of like, meh, sex was meh. That was the best way to describe it. Okay, what's next? And the big problem is that everyone said that I needed to do these weird things in the bedroom, like, oh, just go buy some sexy lingerie, or go try a new sex position, go try this position, go read the Kama Sutra. Like, I just remember hearing all these crazy things to do, and I'm like, what? No, I am not doing that. Like, that does not feel good to me. That ain't my style. And they're like, well, if you really want to learn to love your body, you probably got some issues, so you might want to go see a therapist. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really think a therapist is going to help me out with that. So deep down, I knew that I wasn't going to try all of those things. I was not going to go buy the weird lingerie. I was not prance around in heels, like, not going to do it. And I wasn't going to go seek out therapy for body image issues. Like, I literally had disgust around my body. It was bad. And how I was super uncomfortable having sex with a shirt off. Like, oh my gosh. So I had a choice to make. I was either going to go try these weird things and feel really super uncomfortable, go try and track down a therapist that had any idea how to help someone like not feel disgusted by their body, or I could find a holistic solution to learn to love my body and my sexuality. And well, that's when I discovered the jade egg practice, and I learned to love my body and sexuality by releasing years of guilt and shame and trauma and conditioning from just the way that I was raised. I had never experienced sexual trauma, thank God. But when you really understand what trauma is, it's anything that, the body holds on to as a repression. So anything that your body is holding on to that's not allowing you to be your full expression of yourself, that can be considered traumatic. So the guilt and the shame is absolutely traumatizing if that's what you grow up with and that's the only story that you heard, because it shuts down your sexuality, it shuts down your expression. And that's what I had to overcome, and the JDEC helped me do it. So I went from being painfully shy in the bedroom to confidently expressed. I went from feeling sexual guilt and shame to sexual reclamation and celebration. Like, I just remember being like, oh my God, how, like, the word slut even was hard for me to say, or any of these words, like when women talk about reclaiming certain words from, like, what? I could never call myself that. It was just like, oh no. And when I really came to a place of sexual reclamation and celebration, then I was like, oh, wow, your sexuality is your biggest superpower, and it's something we can actually celebrate. And I went from total body disgust to total body love. I still have my bad days. We all have our bad days. Like, it's never going to be 100%, y'all. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, like, every time I go shopping and I find a dress that requires no bra, I'm like, not gonna work for me. And of course, that thought might cross your mind, like, oh, I just need to go get a boob job or something. But those thoughts are way, 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 way less than they used to be. But they still exist, just not very often. And I went from being orgasmic to multi-orgasmic. And the thing is that I was 31 years old at this time. I had already birthed 2 kids, one of them at home unassisted. One of them was a preemie in a hospital, but still natural. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I knew who I was sexually after I had made 2 babies and birthed them. Like, how backwards is that? You think we should be able to know who we are sexually before we go and make more humans and birth them, right? Like, that seems to be the logical course of events, but it was not for me. And it's not for most women. So the biggest shift that I made was realizing that sexy confidence comes from inside, not from having the perfect body or being able to perform porn star sex acts. And I know the next thing you're thinking, so I'm just going to go ahead and call it out. You might look at me and think, well, yeah, Lacey, you're skinny and you're gorgeous. And I'm going to sit here and tell you that it doesn't freaking matter. Some of the women with the worst self-image issues are models. They're the ones that actually are skinny and, like, literally they cannot stop fixating on the things that aren't absolutely perfect. So, yes, I might be skinny. Yes, I might be pretty. That doesn't mean I didn't struggle with these issues too. So there are definitely things that dark things that I had to deal with. It didn't matter how much baby weight I lost. I actually lost more weight than I gained. I gained 70 pounds in my first pregnancy. I lost 78, and it didn't matter. I still looked at my body and I was like, oh my God, ugh, totally grossed out with the stretch marks, the mom boobs, the cellulite. It was awful. So doing the jade egg practices helped me to fall in love with my body and my sexuality without the years of therapy or counseling or doing weird things in the bedroom that didn't feel authentic. I actually remember buying a book. I bought a book. It was something on female ejaculation. I was like, well, I'll just buy a book and see. I started reading this book and I could not wrap my head around what this woman was talking about. She's like, you have to drop the goal of orgasm. You have to drop the goal of ejaculating. You have to like stop thinking about the end goal and like really drop into your body and then your pleasure. And I could not understand what she was talking about. I'm like, well, isn't the point of sex to have an orgasm? I'm like, isn't that the point? And she's like, no, you are not going to have the greatest mind-blowing orgasms if you're going in trying to do so. That's the great orgasm paradox, but that's a topic for another day. All right, so I stayed consistent with my jade egg practices, and I did them about 15 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. And then I started to feel more love for my body and connect with my sexuality in a really deep way. And one of my favorite parts of the story was one morning when I woke up and I was in that half dream, half awake stage, around 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're like half awake. And I just noticed all of this dark energy leaving my body. And it was literally like shame ghosts, like guilt ghosts, just leaving me and lifting and going back into the earth. And after that experience, that's when I became multi-orgasmic. And I started having the strongest, longest lasting orgasms of my life. And I'm like, what in the world have I been missing out on this entire time? So this is a fun little picture I've never shared on social media. But if you've ever heard of Kim Anami, she is a very well known jade egg teacher who often uses jade egg weights. That's what these pink things are. These are weights that you can use, and that's the floss. But yeah, so this is a picture of me doing the jade egg weights, at Kim Anami style, right? So that's how I knew that there was something to this ancient Taoist practice from China. Even though it sounded totally woo-woo, I was like, this is so weird. Like super, super weird, but also I was really committed to finding a holistic solution to my issues. So I was willing to try something that sounded a little unconventional. And, also there weren't any other mamas I knew that were having amazing orgasms and totally in love with their body, even though they had saggy boobs and cellulite. So I was like, well, if it worked for me, it can work for someone else. And that's when I signed up to do a 1,200-hour sex love relationship coaching training. And then I went on to do more training and specialized training in the jade egg and tantra and men's sexuality too, with Layla Martin in 2016. And I seen what it did for myself, and I was like, hell yeah, this is what I'm here to do with my life. I want to empower other women to have amazing sex and relationships and to feel sexy in their life again in a completely holistic way. So that's when, after working with a bunch of clients the last 2 years, I started to create my own method to my madness. And I created the J spot method. That's what I'm calling it. J for Jade, right? The J spot method. And the way that we can get to a place of igniting desire and feeling sexy again is by igniting with the jade egg practice, igniting the energy body. And we will talk about this more specifically. So really getting your energy going, your sexual energy revved up and moving, and then integrating the parts and pieces in your deep body mind, the unconscious conditioning, and if you have any trauma, the trauma, integrating it, and then aligning all of these parts and pieces to your desire or your goal, and then doing practices that are in alignment with your goal on a regular basis to help get you there. And this is where a lot of people have the biggest problem, alignment, because they don't want to actually do the work to get where they want to go. But you're not going to ever get there if you don't actually do it. There's no magic pill for women's desire, and there's never going to be one that's truly effective, because women's desire does not look anything like men's. And then the fourth step is to empower new parts and pieces of you to show up in the bedroom differently. So where is the sex goddess inside of you? Where is that delicious turned on woman that knows she's worthy of pleasure inside of you? There's something inside of you, if you're on this call right now or watching it, that knows that you can have this. Otherwise you would not be here. Well, that is an empowered piece of you, and that's what we get to empower instead of all of these other pieces that really aren't integrated yet. But once we get them aligned, then we can empower and move forward towards our desire and goal. So how this applies to you is that if this mama can ignite her desire and feel sexy again using the methods from the J-Spot method, you can too. This is me right after my second baby was born. He was a premature baby. He was born at like 33 weeks, I think. And he's only like 5 pounds in this picture. He's so little, he's so cute. But yeah, this is me when I was still pretty sexually shut down. All right, so no matter how much you hate your body or how much you think your sex life is over after having kids, it's not hopeless. There is hope for you. Okay, so what most people are going to do though, and I'm going to be really blunt with you here, what most people are going to end up doing is that they're going to use their kids as an excuse to not connect with their partner. They're going to continue having surface level conversations to avoid going there with their partner because they don't actually want to talk about sex, or they don't know how to talk about sex. They're going to continue to nitpick their partner until they drive each other crazy. They're either going to numb out on wine, weed, TV, or any other things that people tend to numb out on, shopping even, a lot. A lot of people do that one. Or they're going to end up saying yes to sex just to get him or her off their back. And all of those things are going to do nothing but disconnect you more from your body, from your sexuality, and cause serious damage and cause serious resentment in your relationship. Okay, I don't know what that's about. Okay. So the J-Spot method works to ignite desire and feel sex again, because you're going to cut through all of this surface level crap advice that you get on the internet. Like seriously, I want you to go Google how to get your desire back after kids, or how to get your desire or something. It's so ridiculous. Like they'll just say, try a new sex position, or try having sex in a different time of the day. Like seriously, like that's supposed to make me want to have sex more? Okay. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And all of the crap advice that your well-meaning friends are going to want to give you too, but honestly, they don't know shit about women's desire or, really how to ignite that. So it cuts through all of that and it gets right to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is what most people don't really want to have to deal with. But, if you really want to change, this is how you do it. You have to get to the root, to the source. And that's by working through your body disconnection, the disconnection that you have from your body, from your emotional and intimacy blocks, and your self-hatred issues, and your trauma. And this could be any type of trauma that is affecting your sex life. So screw hormone replacement therapy. It has nothing to do with desire, and I'll explain more of that in a little bit. Screw doing things in the bedroom that don't feel authentic. This picture is funny. And if you like BDSM and all that sort of stuff, ain't no problem with that. I actually enjoy some of that myself, but for a lot of women, this feels totally inauthentic and they would never do this. So, I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just saying if this is not something that sparks you and that just piques your interest, I just want you to know you don't have to do these things to like get your desire back. But a lot of people are like, oh, well, just try some BDSM play or so. No, don't do that if it doesn't feel authentic. And then screw years of therapy or couples counseling that only scratch the surface of your emotional and intimacy blocks and trauma, and don't do diddly squat about women's lack of desire issues. Most counselors and therapists aren't really trained in how to deal with these issues around sexuality specifically, unless it's a sex therapist. And then, even then, you need to find a really good one to be of any use, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And screw buying lingerie that doesn't make any sense and makes you feel even more awkward and uncomfortable when you put it on. Y'all, look at this. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just laughable. Okay. So I only work with people who are willing to do something different, that aren't willing to sacrifice who they are and what they want, or and who are willing to go deep to the root cause of the issue to create lasting change and transformation. So if you want a quick fix, ain't your gal. I am not your woman, because that is not what I'm about. And there's just no quick fixes to lack of desire and feeling good in your body. So let's talk about what is. All right. So number one, we're going to talk about the number one thing you can do today to take responsibility for your lack of desire and stop blaming it on your hormones. So most women think that if they lack desire, it's their hormones. Well, it's probably not, because lack of desire has nothing to do with that. That's libido. It's your physical sexual health is your libido. And since most of my followers are already into health and wellness, it's probably not your hormones. Your libido is probably just fine. Okay. And if it's not, go get it checked. And even then, taking hormones is a very tedious subject, which I'll maybe share a little bit more about in a second. But first, I want to explain the difference between libido, desire, and arousal. Okay. Libido is your physical sexual health. Are you actually making the hormones that you need to feel turned on? Are you eating enough fatty acids? Most of us are not eating enough fatty acids and fat, healthy fat, and I said fatty acids, I mean fat, like healthy fat. Like, we need healthy fat in order to make the hormones necessary to feel turned on. Most likely your hormones are okay, even if you're not. And if you could stand to eat more healthy fats, then check out seed cycling. Seed cycling is a wonderful way to naturally produce the hormones you need to feel turned on. And it's super, like, I have noticed changes within a couple of weeks of doing seed cycling. It's just where you eat different types of seeds throughout the month. So if you think for any second that it might be your hormones, just go get them checked and try seed cycling first. And if it doesn't work, then maybe you can talk to your doctor about other options. But for most people, that's not their problem. It's the emotional connection. It's the feeling worthy of pleasure. It's the feeling that they don't feel like they can take time for themselves in the bedroom. It's their body image issues. This is the problem, not this. Okay? There's probably nothing wrong with your body. What is the problem is the lack of intimacy and emotional connection that you're able to have with your partner or yourself, and the amount of worthiness or deservingness you feel of having pleasure, and you being able to get out of your head enough to drop into your body and your pleasure and know that it doesn't matter how long it takes to drop that goal of having an orgasm, like I was telling you about from that book I read. And then arousal is understanding what your body needs to get turned on. Arousal is different all of the time, especially if you're cycling, because we are cyclical creatures. And if you really want to understand arousal, then go read Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. But this changes, and it's really dependent on if you are spontaneously turned on, or if you are one that needs more of the buildup throughout the day and your responsive desire. So you can check that out to understand more about arousal. And see, people use them interchangeably. Even in that book, she uses desire when she should be using arousal. But again, people don't really understand the difference, and they don't make the distinction. So if it's not your hormones, what is it? For most women, especially hardworking mamas, it's the lack of emotional connection and their intimacy blocks. And there's other reasons too, but this is a really big one. Okay. So you don't ever want to have to count on sex to be the door to intimacy. It is the other way around. First, you need to develop intimacy skills, and then you can make love to enjoy your newfound intimacy skills. So take responsibility for your blocks and learn to have honest, vulnerable conversations about sex and pleasure with your partner. Get real about what's really going on for you and stop talking about the weather and the kids all the time. How many times do you actually talk about something other than these very blah conversations? Like, no, just stop. Also, create new daily habits in alignment with pleasure and stop being so busy. Like, seriously, I think women, especially moms, we get our self value and self worth from being busy. And I want you to stop that, because that is not, like, you being busy is not a reflection of your self worth at all. And honestly, that's a big part of the reason that you do lack desire. If you're on here and you are constantly filling up your calendar or making more to dos, is because you feel like you need to be busy. That's partly why you don't experience pleasure, because you're too busy to actually experience pleasure. You're not thinking about pleasure. It's not a priority. And then you go and say, oh, well, I don't have time for pleasure and sex. Well, if you quit being so busy, you probably would. All right. So the J-Spot method works to clear intimacy blocks and to ignite desire by working with integrating and aligning parts and pieces of you. So integrating who inside of you is emotionally blocked and afraid of expressing what's real for you. Most of the time, it's a younger version of you. It's an inner child, an inner teenager, something inside of you that got hurt, heartbroken, made to feel wrong when you did express something that was really important, or you did get really vulnerable and intimate with someone. So we have to work with this inner child part of you, these younger parts of you, to get them into a place of having their needs met. Because until their needs are met, you're if you're trying to push this part of you out or get rid of this part of you, it's just going to get even worse. So meeting this part of you's needs, you can do that. Okay, you don't have your parents here, you're a grown-ass woman, you don't have your parents to meet your inner child's needs anymore. You have to become the parent for your own inner child now. So making sure your inner child isn't showing up in your bedroom. For most of us, that's what's happening. Most of us, our inner children are showing up in our relationship. Our inner children are the ones instigating the arguments and the nitpicking and the fighting. That's our inner child. That's our inner child acting out. And until we can really get to a place of integration with them and align with our desires for our relationship and our sex life, they're going to continue to have control and power over our relationship and sex life. So we want to align by creating new daily habits in alignment with pleasure. So making boundaries with that inner child and saying, okay, you're not showing up in my bedroom in my pleasure practice. you're not coming in my bedroom today. You're not showing up in my conversation with my partner this evening. So take time each day to get embodied and to get vulnerable and share with your partner as the grown-ass woman you are, and not this inner child version of yourself. So now I want you to take stock of just how much you might be emotionally blocked and how much fear of intimacy you might have. So we're going to kind of rapid fire through these, but I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, or just to think about how many times a week you do these things. Okay. So how often do you actually talk with your partner about something other than work, the kids, or the weather? So I really want you to think about how many times a week that happens. How much of a nitpicker are you with your partner on a scale of 1 to 10? So how much are you constantly trying to tell them that they need to be doing something other than what they're doing? How much resentment do you hold towards your partner? Are you super resentful of them? How often do you use your kids or your work or business as an excuse to not connect with your partner? Write down the number of times a week you do this on average. How much alcohol do you drink, TV do you watch, or other forms of numbing behavior do you engage in every day or every week? Numbing behaviors are slow killers. Yes, it feels good in the moment, but if you don't address your emotions and your intimacy blocks, it only makes it worse. How much do you blame your lack of connection and intimacy on your partner? I talk to so many women who say, oh, well, it's my boyfriend or my husband who doesn't want to connect and who doesn't open up. I'm calling bullshit on you, babe. Your ability to be intimate with yourself is your relationship with your partner is a direct reflection of your ability to be intimate with yourself. So if you don't feel like if you feel like your relationship with your partner is emotionally disconnected, that's because you're emotionally disconnected from yourself. Okay. And when you change that, then your relationship dynamic will change too. How worthy do you feel of pleasure and amazing connected sex on a scale of 1 to 10? How safe do you feel to cry, laugh, or express other emotions in the bedroom with your partner on a scale of 1 to 10? So, the point is I want you to take responsibility for your emotional and intimacy blocks and do something about it. Stop blaming your partner for it. Stop avoiding the problem and stop numbing out. It's not going to get any better if you're constantly numbing yourself so you don't have to deal with this. So I want you to take a look at your answers. Oh my goodness, y'all, I'm so sorry. Let me go back. Where'd it go? Here we go. So take a look at your answers and I want you to share your lowest scoring answer or where you're most struggling the most. Or where you're most struggling. That was like a double use of most. I apologize. So my guess is that there are a lot of sevens. If you rated yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, there are a lot of sevens. That's probably really common because and it's the worst because sevens mean that you're pretty complacent. Like there's no real reason for you to have to change. Like things are okay. You're just going through the motions, but that's not going to ignite your desire and it's not sexy to be at a 7. Okay. So if you're around a 7 or your answer kind of mediocre for all of those, like, oh, I do a little bit of those, but not that much. Or if you are in that place, that's literally the worst place you can be in because there's nothing that's going to spark you to change and to resolve the issue. All right. So I want you to think of desire as a fire. Okay. Desire as a fire. You don't start a fire by putting logs together and then lighting the match and then expecting the logs to burn, do you? If you've ever been on Girl Scouts, it don't work, okay? No, you don't get a roaring fire by starting with logs, i.e. if you have a male partner who has male genitalia, that's not how you get a flame going, okay? You get a roaring fire by starting it with leaves, twigs, and sticks. And once it's roaring, then you can throw the logs on. So, leaves, twigs, and sticks for women mean emotional connection, intimacy, feeling safe to be vulnerable, and showing up exactly as you are, being able to express yourself, feeling like it's okay to cry in front of your partner, feeling like they're not going to freak out if you do. Like, these are the things that make women get desirous and feel turned on, is knowing that your partner isn't going to think you're a crazy person for just being you, right? Like, no, you want that emotional connection, that feeling safe, being vulnerable, and just being able to show up exactly as you are without feeling like you're going to get judged, like they're going to laugh at you, or they're not going to be able to handle it. So, what is it costing you to stay where you're at financially? Are you seeing a couples therapist or a counselor? Are you in therapy or counseling for yourself for these issues? And is it actually working? So, just curious, what is that costing you financially? What is it costing you health wise? How much energy do you not have because you don't know where your mojo went, because you're totally lost in it and you're like, oh my god, I don't have any energy to even get out of this. What is it costing you family wise? So how much of your family, like, what are you teaching your kids about this? What are you showing them about relationship and sexuality? What is it costing you relationship wise? So are you secretly resenting your partner and not addressing that issue? Are you just not having sex? Or has it been a year since you've had sex? I have talked with people who it's been a year or over, and they have young kids and they have just not found their groove. What is that costing you? Is it keeping you up at night wondering what he's thinking? For a lot of you, it is. I know, because I've talked to you. So, do you want to feel turned on again? Yes or no? Yes, you want to feel turned on again. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Do you want to be seen, truly seen by your partner and feel emotionally connected and on the same page? Yes or no? Of course you do. No one doesn't want that, right? Do you want to be a healthy example to your kids of what a conscious, healthy relationship looks like? Yes or no? Of course you do. Of course you want to show your kids what that is. But if you're not doing it yourself, how do you expect your kids to have that role model? How do you expect them to know? Because kids are really freaking smart. They know when something's wrong. They know when something is not right. They are so sensitive to these things, and they're, with their parents knowing if something's wrong or not. So if you don't think they sense it, I promise you they do. So now we're going to move on to secret number 2. Is that where we're at? Yes. All right. So how to love yourself and be confident without going on diets, getting in the perfect shape, or doing things in the bedroom that don't feel authentic. All right. Most people think that confidence comes from having the perfect body, from doing self-care, which to most people means taking bubble baths, buying something nice for themselves, getting their nails done, getting their hair blown out. And they think sexual confidence comes from being able to do porn star sex acts, even if it doesn't feel authentic. And they think that self-love comes from only allowing love and light and getting rid of all the parts of them that they don't like or deem negative. Heard of positive vibes only and love and light? I've got a couple of things to say about that, dear. All right. And they've got no idea that confidence and self love come from truly, deeply knowing and accepting all parts and pieces of themselves, all parts of their body, even and especially the shadow, the dark, the negative parts, the unlovable parts. That's where confidence, sexy confidence, comes from. So let's start with my story. I was super shy, as you know, shut down, unexpressed in my body for decades. I was raised Southern Baptist. My family did not drink. They didn't even dance. Okay. And I remember walking out of the bathroom when I was 6 years old, and my parents were fussing at me because I didn't have my clothes on. Like, I literally had a towel around me walking 2 feet to my bedroom, and they would fuss at me every single time I would do that. So yeah, I got some pretty nasty messages about how I must be disgusting. My body must just be gross. And I never touched myself or self-pleasured until I was around 25 years old. So when I started Tantra school, I was super, super uncomfortable. All right, touching myself for the first time, I literally almost puked trying to put a jade egg in for the first time. It took me about 10 times to put in a jade egg before I could actually go through with it all the way. I had seen over 140 women give birth by that time, and I still could not even touch my own cervix without wanting to vomit. And embodying uncomfortable emotions, acting them out like shame, disgust, and fear, and like really letting myself feel the disgust, the shame, and the fear that I had. Oh my God, it's so uncomfortable. And doing shadow work, super, super, super uncomfortable, because all my life I was taught we don't talk about that. We don't go there. Like, that's stuff we don't want to feel, so we don't go there. Well, I was hoping that going to yoga and meditating and only surrounding myself with love and light and good vibes only was enough, but the truth is it absolutely was not. Okay, so within 8 weeks of doing jade egg practices, this is when I was in my sex coaching training, 3 months of tantric deconditioning, de-armoring, self-pleasure practices, meditation, shadow work, trauma release, breath work, I was completely blown open. Completely blown open. I stopped being grossed out by my saggy boobs, my stretch marks, my cellulite, and I started expressing myself in the bedroom in ways that I honestly could not believe myself. I was super confident, and I was falling in love with who I was as a sexual woman. I have a big ass, I had saggy boobs, I had stretch marks, and I didn't fucking care, and my husband went wild for me, my husband at the time, and I would cry, I would laugh in sex, I'd have 10 freaking orgasms or more, and I couldn't get enough of him either. And the thing is, I didn't change a damn thing about the way I was eating or exercising. I actually stopped exercising. I barely ran or exercised for like an entire year when I was going through the basic sex coaching training. I barely exercised that entire year. I wasn't getting my nails done I wasn't getting my hair blown out. I wasn't wearing sexy lingerie. I was not doing weird things in the bedroom that made me feel uncomfortable in hopes of spicing things up. And I was down. I was so down with embracing the dark shadow parts of me, the wild witchy women inside of me, just as much as the angelic mother and the good wife. So fuck your love and light and your good vibes only. Because if you want to feel sexually confident, you have to embrace your shadow and your imperfections. That is only way, the only way that it works. All of the parts of you don't like, your saggy boobs, your cellulite, your stretch marks. And when you can accept that and learn to love that, all of the imperfections, all of the darkness, all of the junk you don't like, that is when you will find confidence and self-love, because this is all a part of you. This is all conscious parts of you that make up who you are. And when you are not accepting of that, you are denying parts of you. And no wonder you don't love yourself, because you're literally denying parts of who you are. And when I could finally learn to accept all of these parts of me, the dark, the shadow, the not good vibes, the negative vibes, that's when I went from orgasmic to multi-orgasmic, from disgust and wanting to throw up touching my cervix for the first time, to total body love. Keep having to move this thing. From being painfully shy in the bedroom to confidently expressed. From sexual guilt and shame to sexual reclamation and celebration. And this method of embracing all parts of you instead of trying to get rid of the parts you don't like is the only way to ever have real confidence and self-love. And it works for absolutely any woman who is bold and brave enough to accept and learn to love all the parts that make her who she is. It worked for Claire. So going from sex being a complete snooze fest to feeling sexy, confident in the bedroom and getting her mojo back. It worked for Vivian, from being in a 1.5 year sexless marriage to finally having sex again with her partner on a regular basis and having simultaneous orgasms, female ejaculating for the first time, and actually being able to talk to her husband about sex in a way that felt good. It worked for Jennifer, from my struggling massage therapist who lacked boundaries to having boundaries, and who had created amazing connection with her partner and being able to have vaginal orgasms from penetration for the first time. It worked for Sarah, who went from having painful sex and had a traumatic birth experience to pleasurable, deep connected sex that felt amazing and was not painful anymore. It was actually pleasurable for the first time in forever. And secret number 3, so we're moving on quickly to that, is discovering why couples counseling and therapy does not work to resolve lack of desire, and the number one thing that you can do now to ignite it. So remember the J-spot method, right? My lovely defined method here, J for Jade. So igniting the energy body, integrating, aligning, and empowering. So first we have to ignite your energy body by starting a jade egg practice and getting your sexual energy flowing. So this takes an initial input. All right, I know you're tired. I know you don't have time for sex. I know you're exhausted and overwhelmed. But here's the thing. The pleasure paradox and the Taoist 3-part energy system. All right, the jade egg is a Taoist practice, so that's where this comes from. Is that the more pleasure you allow yourself to have, move, the more energy you will have. So if you deprive yourself of pleasure, then you deprive yourself of energy. Okay? I want you to read that again. If you deprive yourself of pleasure, you are depriving yourself of energy, because your pleasure, your sexual energy, is the source of your energy to do life. So if you want more energy, you have to make pleasure a priority, because pleasure is the source of all energy. Okay, so there are 3 energy centers in the Taoist system. There's 7 in the Tantric chakra system. So you have Jing, which is your sexual energy, and it exists in your lower belly. You have Qi, which is your life energy that exists in your heart and your chest. And you have Shen, which is your spiritual energy. And if you lack chi, the energy to do life, it's because you are depleted in jing, which is your sexual energy. So if you're feeling depleted and too tired to do anything, then you have to go back to your sexual energy and focus on it. All right. This is the problem with our society, is that we think that we don't need to do anything with our sexuality, that if we're in a long-term relationship and the sex just kind of dies, then we're like, well, maybe we're just not meant to be together, or maybe we just need to get divorced, or maybe we just need to open up our relationship, right? You probably don't need to do any of those things. You actually just need to like put some effort into your sexuality. It's just like any other part of your life. Like, you wouldn't go around thinking that you would be healthy forever if you ate freaking fast food all the time, would you? No. You'd have to get serious about your health and really start paying attention to what you're eating, maybe working out a little bit. Like, why don't we do that with our sexuality? Like, we can't expect to have a sexuality over our lifetime without putting any effort into it. So if you lack the energy to do life, it's because you are depleted in your sexual energy. So if you want energy for life, pay attention to your sexual energy, get it ignited, and then you can transmute it into chi, and then chi can be transmuted into shen. So it takes a lot of energy to have a spiritual awakening, y'all. A lot. Okay. Spiritual awakenings are intense. And this is why Taoism and Tantra are so cool, because they also say that actually you don't get a spiritual awakening unless you are right with your sexuality first, which is why I love these two mystical traditions so much, because there's no spiritual bypassing in them. Okay, no, you have to be right with sex. And when you're right with sex, then you have the energy to do your purpose work in this world. And when you're doing your purpose work in this world, you begin to have the energy to have a next level spiritual awakening. All right, so who wants more energy? You want more energy? Everybody want more energy. Then make pleasure a priority and start a jade egg practice. Okay, that's what will take that initial ignition, that initial, okay, I'm going to pay attention to my sexuality. I'm going to pay attention to my pleasure. And I'm going to make it a priority. If you want more energy, that's what you got to do. You got to make it a priority for a little bit of time. And eventually it's going to become a self-fulfilling engine, a self-sustaining engine. It becomes sustainable. Like, you're not needing to go get 10 cups of coffee throughout the day just to get started. So more on the jade egg practice a little bit, but igniting desire is something you have to do for yourself. You don't do this with a partner. Okay, this is why it doesn't work in therapy and counseling, is because it has nothing to do with your partner. It literally has nothing to do with them. It only has to do with you. So you have to ignite yourself and get your energy into it. So couples counseling and therapy only focuses on one, maybe two, if they're really good therapists, one, maybe two parts of the mind body connection that really have anything to do with desire and women's lack of desire. Okay, so here's what it takes. We've got 3 levels of the mind and the body that we need to be paying attention to, but therapy and counseling really only focuses on this one. All right, so we've got unconscious, subconscious, primal brain things going on. This is your trauma. If you have sexual trauma, birth trauma, any sort of trauma that's affecting your sexuality, this is where it's at. It's in your unconscious primal brain. And unless they're a really good therapist or they're a somatic sex therapist, you're not getting this. If then we've got your emotional limbic midbrain. So this is your ability to really learn how to express emotion, to learn what to do with emotions, to learn how emotions are nothing more than just energy that you can circulate through your body. Again, most therapists, counselors are not addressing this at all. They are only addressing healing through the cortical logical thinking mind. But you can't heal something unless you heal it on the level that it was created. We don't have sex problems because we just logically thought, okay, well, I have sex problems and now I need to go fix it on this cortical thinking level. No, it's because of all these other things in the background, the things we aren't really aware of. And then, of course, they don't address the body because they can't. They're therapists. They're not like healers. So the body is like a sponge and it holds on to tension, trauma, and stress. So if you've had trauma before, it's stuck in your body, and we have all had sexual trauma on some level or another. Like I said, it doesn't have to be overt sexual trauma. It can be something as simple as guilt and shame. All right, so if your hormones are the cause of your lack of desire, then it's your emotional intimacy blocks, it's your negative body image, it's your self hatred, it's your body disconnection, your numbness, the pain. It's a negative unconscious conditioning around sex, pleasure, orgasm, and being a woman. It's a negative mindset around those things, and it's the sexual and birth trauma that we're not really addressing that affects our sexuality. So, how much of that do you really think you're going to get in touch, that you're going to touch on with a talk therapist? Or if you have been in counseling or therapy for lack of desire and body image issues, like how much of that did you touch on and how effective was it? Probably not at all effective. And because you probably didn't talk about those things. It's crazy how many women I talk to that have been like, yeah, I went to a therapist for 5 years and we never even talked about my rape when I was 17. And I'm like, what? What? How does this not come up? I don't even know. Okay, but this is why it doesn't work. All right, so that's why you're here. So most therapy and counseling fails because it doesn't address the root of lack of desire, which exists in your primal brain. So right here, your unconscious conditioning and trauma, your limbic brain, your emotional intimacy blocks, or your physical body, the somatic level, and where the trauma gets trapped. Okay, so my J-spot method, however, it does work because it works on all 4 layers of your mind, body, and a spirit in a completely holistic way. So we address a little bit of each of these in this methodology. So igniting, how does it work? Let's see if I can move this. There. Ignite your body with the jade egg. How it works. Okay, well, the jade egg works by massaging reflexology points at different lengths and depths of your vagina so that you become more sensitized to different types of orgasms, longer lasting orgasms. It helps you to connect to your body. All right, so it sends signals to your primal brain that your pleasure and your vagina are important and you should actually pay attention to them because we have lived for so long being so disconnected from these parts of us. It teaches you to approach your body in a more feminine way and to drop the goal of the performance pressure. Remember when I was sharing about the book, I was like, what is sex if it's not about having an orgasm? All right. Most people think like that. Stop with the goal. And that's teaching yourself to approach your body without expectation of your body to perform or to do something. And when you can give yourself that space and time, that's when it opens up and blossoms. And it allows you to gently release trauma and conditioning from your system. It teaches you to refine sexual energy so you feel more energized in your life, just like I was sharing with your Jing, Qi, and Shin energy. And it de-armors your vagina if you have stored tension and stress or birth or sexual trauma, so sex won't be so painful anymore. And here are some stats on the jade egg practice from my teacher, Layla Martin, from her jade egg course. She had a jade egg course that it's not running anymore, but she had over 3,000 women do her course, and she sent out surveys every time she ran it. And these are the statistics she got back. 99.6% of women reported experiencing a better connection to their body. 99.2% experienced more self-love, and 87.9 experienced better sex with a minimum of 3 jade egg practices. So I would say it's worth a shot. All right, integrate. So this is the second step of the J-spot method. Integrate your unconscious conditioning. How does that work? It's getting to know all the parts and pieces of you that aren't on board of you experiencing pleasure and connected sex, like your inner child we were discussing. It's changing your sexual narrative. So how many of you got raised in a sex positive household? Probably not many. So there's work to be done around your sexual narrative and your mindset. It works by addressing your birth and sexual trauma. So resolving that trauma, getting past it. And it works by resolving emotional and intimacy blocks by embracing and liberating them, not trying to push them out or get rid of them. And especially the negative, the shadow emotions, keeping you from satisfying intimacy and connection that sparks desire. Remember that fire log analogy? Okay, and then aligning your mindset and actions toward pleasure. How does that work? Well, it works by creating new daily habits in alignment with pleasure and joy. It helps by learning to allow all emotions and to use them as fuel for life instead of numbing yourself out, trying not to feel the emotions that you don't want to feel. You know what you're doing when you do that? You're saying, no thanks, I don't want any more energy. No thanks, I don't need that. You have the opportunity with every single emotion to use it as fuel for life. So stop numbing yourself out from them. All right. It works by um, getting you to commit to regular jade egg practices and self pleasure practices, and by taking time to get embodied and out of your head every day with daily meditation or breath work practices. How many of you have a problem getting your head out of sex? Probably 99.9% of you, because we live in a world that completely praises us for being in our heads all of the time. We have a really hard time dropping out of that and getting back into our body. And empower. So this is the fourth step, empowering a new identity. How that works is stop defining your worth as a woman by how busy you are. Oh my God, create some white space in your calendar and learn how to say no to some things. And then you're going to start to experience more pleasure in your life, newfound pleasure. And it works by empowering the sensual, sexual woman in you who is here to be an example to your kids that it is not taboo to be a mom and a sexual woman too. And it works by helping you to discover your inner sex goddess. So fuck your love and light and your positive vibes only. Somebody's gonna send me hate mail over that, and I don't freaking care, because it's so true. Until you learn to embrace all parts of you, your shadow, your imperfections, and all, you will not have self-love and confidence. And this again. So igniting your desire and feeling sexy again don't happen by talking about it through talk therapy or couples counseling. So if you want to get your desire back and feel sexy, you have to go deep and learn to get out of your head and in your body, and learn to set boundaries with your inner critic, your inner child, your negative Nancy, all those parts of you. All right, so my next level training, right? That 14-day practice guide to ignite your desire and feel sexy again. I want to share that with you now. So in that practice guide, you're going to get specific practices that are going to help you make your way through some of the J-spot method, right? So you're going to ignite by starting a jade egg practice. So you're going to get a jade egg practice e-guide, which is going to tell you everything you need to know about the jade egg, how to start a practice, how to care for your jade egg, hygiene, how to use it in a way that's really safe. And you're going to get some practices that will help you to come into integration and alignment. So you're going to get some emotional intimacy and connection practices if you have a partner. And I have taken care of those of you who do not have a partner as well. So doing some emotional and intimacy building practices for yourself or with a girlfriend, like a friend. So you can do that with your friends, or you can do it with your partner. And then empower. So you're going to get some practices that will help to empower that part of you, that inner sex goddess in you that does have desire and is full of desire. So it worked for some of these women here. So these women got ignited with a couple weeks jade egg practices, and they totally had their permission to put this here, even though their names aren't even on it. But one of them did some jade egg practices, one-on-one client, and she's like, no pain. I did the jade egg practice breathing during sex, and it really helped me to relax. And this one, I climaxed at the same time with my partner, and I female ejaculated, and I feel sexual energy, my root and sacral chakra. Yay. And these women got integrated, aligned, and empowered with a couple weeks meditations, breath work, and self-pleasure practices. If they can do it, so can you. This one worked with me for 3 weeks, and she had the best night of her life after being in a relationship for 6 years, and they had sex 3 times in one night. And this one really got to a place of being able to release some of her emotional blockages, and she was finally able to sit with her grief, releasing and letting that flow through her. So grab my free 14-day practice guide to ignite desire and feel sexy again, and you're going to get that free breakthrough session with me to get past your deepest personal blocks to desire, body confidence, and self-love. You're going to get a full breakdown on how to start a jade egg practice, and I'm going to give you 3 audio guided jade egg practices and a 20% off coupon for a nephrite jade egg, which is the only safe jade egg that I recommend, other than an obsidian egg. But you don't need to be using an obsidian egg if you have never used one before. That's for advanced practitioners. And then you'll get the best meditations, breath work, and self-pleasure practices to ignite your desire. And all of that is worth $997 for you, all free. And all you need to do is go to bit.ly/breakthrough with Lacey. So it's LACEY bit.ly/breakthrough with Lacey, and book the call. And in the call confirmation email, you will get the link to the JDEG e-guide and the 14-day practice guide. Stupid phone ringing again. Okay, so this is only for women who are willing to do something unconventional yet effective. Okay, it's only for women who are going to stop using their kids or their work or business or being too busy as an excuse to not connect with their partner. Okay, this is only for women who are going to be willing to take responsibility for the lack of intimacy in their relationship and stop blaming it on their partner. And it's only for women who are willing to schedule time to actually do the practices. The average time the practices take in the 14-day guide are 8 minutes. The shortest one is like 5 and the longest one is like 20. But on average, they're 8 minutes long. So 8 minutes, a couple days a week, I think you can handle it. Okay, and this is only for women who are willing to make pleasure a priority. If you can't prioritize 8 minutes to yourself, then I really don't know why you're here. So drop the mindset that your sex life is over now that you've had kids, or drop the mindset that your sex life is over now that you've had kids. So if you can't drop that mindset, I don't know why you're here either. Okay, you've got to be willing to let that go if you want to change. So if pleasure is not a priority for you, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Don't waste mine. So this is for women who seriously are ready to prioritize their pleasure and get serious about making some changes in their relationships and their sex life. So if you got this 14-day practice guide and walked away with just one of these, would it be worth it? Your 7s are now a 10. Remember those questions I asked you? You learned to communicate with your partner in a way that feels safe. You felt more love for your body and your sexuality. You felt just 1% more energized. Would it be worth it? Of course it would be. So go ahead and book your call and get your free 14-day practice guide at bit.ly/breakthrough with Lacey. And I'm even going to show you a few of what your freebies are going to look like. So how do I stop screen share here? Let's see. There we go. Look how easy that was. Okay. So here's your 14-day practice guide to ignite desire, feel sexy again. So you're going to see day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and it just keeps going all the way to day 6. And then you click on them and it's going to go to the practice guide with all the links. So these are your practices. So like the body love breath work. All you got to do is click it, and then it'll take you to the audio guided practice. Okay, pretty cool, huh? And what else? The JDEG e-guide is right here. So you'll learn all of the contraindications, like the restrictions, why you shouldn't use it, the care and hygiene, the usage instructions, where to get one, and your coupon code and all of that business. And let's get back to this. Now, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. So I'll open up the chat box. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And if not, I will look forward to getting on the call with you whenever you book your breakthrough call for free and getting to know a little bit more about you. Super excited. Thank you so much for joining me and for giving me the opportunity and the pleasure to be here and to share with you how to ignite your desire and feel sexy again without all these crazy things that we think we need to do. And yeah, y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. All right, bye.